A lot of history recorded has actually shown us how British, saved the world from a lot of turmoil. And today we are going to be checking out if you live in freedom, thank the British Empire. And this is from PragerU.com. And let's check this one out together.
All right, let's go.
Over the
PragerU.com.
last 400 years, what power has done the most to spread the ideals of limited government, an independent judiciary, certain inalienable rights, and free markets? That power would be the British Empire. It was Britain that gave these ideals to the United States. It was the British Empire, the largest empire the world has ever known, which made these ideals global aspirations.
I'm
It was the
sorry, what actually happened to British Empire? Like
It's
it
still a
currently,
history to me,
yeah,
like more like a mystery. Sorry, not history. The like you said, one of the greatest
they actually sold all
empire.
of those ideas to the Americans. But the empire is not like a relics of the past, and now
Yeah,
there's a Britain. But why do people call Britain Empire? Like whenever the word Britain Empire is mentioned, it's always in history, not
the
in our
present.
present world now. And I'm just thinking, okay, what actually went wrong, and how did the empire, dissolve and everything?
I don't really think it is more like the ideal grow, and many of these states or cities that were once conquered by the great empire started seeking independence.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's what happened. I feel
Yeah,
like,
we are still
yeah,
outsourcing your ideas
and so
down in the
that's
comment
what I
section as
think
well.
happened. You understand? Because you can't tell me, because there was a time we checked out one small history about
The
the
breathing,
breathing, and you could see how vast
it was.
it was. So that's what me I think happened over the years.
The British Empire, along with America, that defended these ideals in two colossal world wars. Freedom was an Englishman's right, and wherever he went, he took that right with him, whether he was an English colonist in America, governing himself through a locally elected assembly, or an English adventurer like Sir Stamford Raffles, creating the free market city-state of Singapore, or an English officer like T.E. Lawrence, leading Arab tribesmen against the Turks. The British always thought of themselves as liberators, as
Yeah.
bringers of freedom. The British believed the final and necessary justification of their empire was a moral one. The British kept the peace. They brought sound, honest administration. And they insisted that basic moral standards were honored. The British did not try to nation build in the way we think of it now. They were under no illusions about making Arabs or Afghans or Zulus into Englishmen. They were more than content to leave people alone, to let them be themselves, to govern them with the lightest possible hand.
Wow.
In American history, we remember this when we think of the British Empire's so-called benign neglect. We can see it throughout the history of the British Empire. Think about the vast territory of the Sudan. It was governed by 140 British civil servants.
Wow.
Even Gandhi praised the British Empire, paraphrasing Jefferson, saying that he believed that the best government was the government that governed least, and that he found that the British Empire guaranteed his freedom and governed him least of all. In the defense of freedom, the empire drew moral lines. No power did more to abolish slavery and the slave trade in the modern world than did the British.
Empire. Yeah, I was about saying that it was actually the British Empire that dissolved slavery, as them.
Yeah,
Like to even see they fought tooth and nail, even at the expense of their lives, to dissolve and abolish slavery is. When I saw the video, I was like blown away because I had no prior idea before that time. I
no, I
was
thought it was actually the Americans though.
No, it was the British. You need to see the video. It was very tough. Really, really tough thing, but they did it. And I think that's one of the things I know, okay, yeah, British has
Done.
done, like, because I know slavery was actually a very big, very, very big thing. And to see that, okay, this set of people, actually, they give us freedom. They give us freedom. See, this set of people, like, in this sense, I said they give us freedom in the sense that they feel like everybody should have freedom and
Equal
right and
rights.
equal rights. And, and they did that then. It's impressive.
Empire. The British Treasury spent enormous sums to liberate slaves and compensate slave owners in the Caribbean. The Royal Navy had as a primary duty the eradication of the slave trade, and in fact, abolishing the slave trade became a major factor driving the expansion of the British Empire. The British enforced a Pax Britannica, putting down pirates, taming headhunters, and keeping the peace between previously warring tribes and religions. While respecting and often ruling through local leaders, the British still insisted on certain Judeo-Christian moral standards. They were not, in that respect, multiculturalists. They had a firm sense of right and wrong. When Sir Charles Napier was confronted by the practice of suttee, widow burning, in India, he told the Brahmin priests involved that he understood it was their custom. But the British had a custom too. They hanged men who burned women alive, and their goods were confiscated. So if the Brahmins insisted on continuing their tradition of widow burning, then he would insist on following his British tradition of hanging the murderers of widows.
Whoa!
Widow.
Whoa, wait. Did I just hear them right that they born widows? I don't get. I respect people's culture, tradition, and everything, but I don't understand the idea that someone just lost his or her husband or wife, whichever way, and the possible best way to console the person
is to burn the person
alive.
I love when I feel like they come in, when it is like really really necessary, because like coming in and doing the same thing to the people doing that to the widows is actually a great thing.
There is a very hot topic that sometimes we don't really talk about because of how sensitive it is. Where moral compass is overlooked because of either cultural belief or religious belief. There is still something we call a moral compass. I don't want to dive into it because, like I said, it's a very people are sensitive around that topic, and some might agree with you, some might get angry with you to the extent that they want to even unalive you. So I don't really want to get into that whole shenanigans, but it's mind-boggling that we forget the human morals and put things that are if you hear it in your own ear, you feel irritated, you feel
triggered. This is bad.
Burning in India soon
practice.
ceased. But we don't have to dig far into history, into the abolition of slavery and widow burning, to find the British Empire on the side of moral right and freedom. We can think of events within our own lifetimes or those of our parents and grandparents. When we think of the two deadliest threats to freedom in the 20th century, we generally think of communism and Nazism.
Yeah.
But how many remember that in 1940, after the Hitler-Stalin Pact and after the fall of France, one power, the British Empire, stood alone in mortal combat against the combined tyrannies of the world?
So what?
Like he said during the Hitler and Stanley war.
You didn't say Stanley.
He said Stanley. I think that is Stalingrad. Okay.
Wait, I didn't hear Stanley. Can I go back?
No, you can.
Can I go back?
So during the Hitler and the you can.
Okay, that's Hitler's
Stanley Pact.
Pact. Wait, what did
Remember that in
Oh, yeah.
1940, after the Hitler-Stalin Pact and after the fall of France, one power, the British Empire, stood alone in mortal combat against the combined tyrannies of the world. Even where the British have merited criticism, as in Ireland, there is more to the imperial story. During negotiations to create the Irish Republic, for instance, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, who could speak Welsh, reminded the Irish nationalist and Gaelic extremist Eamon de Valera that the Celts never had a word for republic. It was an idea given to them by the English. This is our own history, too. If you love America, you should also love the power that gave us our sense of inalienable rights, rights traceable back to Magna Carta. It all started in America with the British Empire, a great liberty-loving empire. It is the empire's legacy, the English-speaking world, that remains the great global guardian of freedom today. I'm H.W. Crocker for Prager University.
Wow.
Thanks for watching. To keep our videos free,
This is really educating.
It is full.
And it's so funny because I don't know why the video burning is still ringing in my ear. And this Hitler and Stan Pact,
We'll check that out.
yeah, I don't really know
Yeah.
the history behind that, and I would really like to find.
Although we know the Hitler, but
Yeah, we know the Hitler,
between
but the
Stalingrad
Stalin,
and
I
Hitler.
know. Because
Reason.
I would have thought maybe is when they actually defeated them and then they surrendered. I thought that was the pact he was referring to. But when he said that the British stood alone against the
moral,
two tyrannies, which means they were actually two
words.
something is
Two
coming to
first.
my head, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's what I'm thinking. That is what it is. Is the Stanley Pact referring to when the Nazis took over France? Do you understand? Are they referring to France?
We never can tell. Please help us down there in the comment section so we don't get history misunderstood or
Exactly.
wrongly. But together is actually, I know British has actually played a very huge role in history, and we really appreciate the British for the good things they've done so far in the world. And seeing this video today is just a reminder of, okay, freedom wasn't like it wasn't
free.
it wasn't free. It was fought for dearly with lives, with money and everything. And we so much appreciate the Britain for all they've done. And currently it seems like I personally I don't like when they refer to British Empire as like it's a relic
A
of the past,
past,
because I know
yeah.
these people impacted a lot to our lives, and in history as well. And again, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. If there's any fact or any point you think we misunderstood,
Exactly.
you can keep your correction there. We'll be there reading your comments. And do well to like, subscribe to the channel as well. We love you guys. Bye.